Hi folks, today is our first attempt at airless spraying and we've got a new toy for the job, so stick around and I'll show you how we get on. Right, so I've been on the hunt for a decent sprayer for a while now. I've got the old HVLP sprayer, which I've used a handful of times, well, quite a few times, on both joinery and larger projects, and it's okay, but it's a bit fiddly as far as mixing down paints. The finish isn't always spot on. So in the future, if we did whole rooms, this would not be the way to go. This is more of a handheld sprayer for doing trim work and doors, and the doors are the main thing we're going to be using this for when we do all of the doors in the house. But this is the Graco Ultra. Now it comes in 3 different models. There are 2 cordless models and then a mains one. Now the 2 cordless ones use DeWalt batteries. I don't run any DeWalt kit, nor do I intend to buy any, so it's just another battery system to stay on top of, plus they're £100 or £200 more. So it seems to make sense to stick with a corded version. I'm never going to be using this a million miles away from a plug socket, so I don't see a huge negative here. And even if you were using a larger airless unit, you'd still always have the hose going back to the paint, so it's not too much different. Where we're always going to be using it in a domestic environment, we're always going to have power, hopefully at least. So that's the unit. We've got 3 meters, which is plenty for here, but of course you could just have an extra extension lead and you could get around the whole room quite easily. I'm not going to go into too much detail because there's endless stuff on these. The Idaho Painter channel, I remember watching that a few years back when these first came out. He's got a load of good tips on these. But anyway, and talking about tips, there are 2 tips that come with it. This is the one that's recommended for the paint we're using. There is a slightly finer one, but we'll see how we go with this. The nice benefit with this one is any direction, upside down. It works on a bag system underneath, so it's always, there's no air in there. We can use it on any angle, which is going to be quite handy because there's a lot of angles here. I'm just about done with all of our prep. I've just put in this little moulding around the top, and I will need to caulk that after the undercoat. Normally, once you've done the undercoat, any holes or imperfections will really stick out. But first up, we need to get suited and booted, ready for the job. Now I've already thinned down the paint a little bit, but that's because this Leyland acrylic primer undercoat that I usually use is a very thick paint, so I've watered it down only a fraction, just to normal consistency, and then I've just passed that through a fine mesh, i.e. the kitchen sieve. So I've got nice clear paint in our all butter flapjack M&S pot. But now we can decant that into the squeezy pot and make a start. Now there are lots of comparisons to make between brushing and rolling and spraying, but one of the main things with spraying is the preparation and the masking off time. It's 80-90% of your time is simply masking up and cleaning down at the end. The spraying is very, very short-lived, so it's really worth spending the time at the beginning, and I'll come back to that in the future on how successful we were with the masking off. Pretty impressed with that. There's a little bit of learn on the job as far as how much to cross over. I'm going for about 50% overlapping as I go across. But very impressed. I haven't even played around with the settings. I've gone for 5 out of the 10 on the pressure settings on the back. I might have a little play with that now, see if we can get it a little bit better. But so far so good. Right, we're back on day 2 of our spraying mission. The green wall I finished up last night. Now, it would have been fine in 2 coats as far as coverage goes, but the second coat, where I was trying to get it, spot on, just wasn't laying on flat. The tip size was correct as far as what they suggest for the paint, and I had played around with the pressures, but for some reason I was getting that orange peely sort of effect, which was showing up, especially in the directional light I had here. When it's the natural daylight in here, it might be okay, but what I did do is sand it down a fair bit, and then I changed to the other tip that came in the kit, which is a finer tip, more for kind of much thinner finishes. The paint itself is quite thin, so I gave it a go, and sure enough it worked quite well. So I gave that another coat, and I'm happy with that. I probably wouldn't settle for that quality of finish if it was kitchen cabinets or that sort of thing, but out here, I mean, it's far smoother than I'd ever achieved with a foam roller, and it's a wall at the end of the day rather than joinery. I'm going to mask this one off now. I've done this sheet here, it's stuck to one wall. I think they're 1.2 meters, so hopefully there's enough in this. Yes, they are. Next job though is to get all these bits of filler that I put in last night. When you've got a light coming from the side, you can easily pick up on imperfections, and there were quite a few bits where I hadn't filled enough the first time around. So I've got those. We'll rub that back, and then we'll get our first coat of eggshell on the white. Okay, time for our big reveal. You ready?